The 1980s, a time of neon lights, big hair, and a Hollywood that operated in the shadows. It was a golden age of cinema, but it was also the wild west of fame. Tabloids were printed once a week, paparazzi had to develop their film, and the studio fixers still held absolute power. Movie stars were treated like gods, untouchable, invincible, and almost above the law. But today, in 2026, the velvet curtain has been ripped down. Every single person on the street has an HD camera in their pocket, and social media accountability can ruin a reputation in less time than it takes to film a TikTok. The scandals that defined the 80s, the dangerous on-set stunts, the unchecked personal chaos, the systemic exploitation, they would all trigger immediate legal consequences, permanent career exile, and massive public boycotts. I mean, just take a look at the demand related to certain files currently. Today, we are taking a look back at 9 shocking Hollywood scandals that stars got away with back then, and why they absolutely could not survive in the digital age. At just 15 years old, Brooke Shields became the face of a marketing revolution that would be a PR nightmare today. Posing for Calvin Klein, she famously whispered the legendary line, "You want to know what comes between me and my Calvins? Nothing." The campaign was shot by renowned photographer Richard Avedon and was designed to be provocative, blurring the lines between fashion, art, and sensuality. It was an instant hit in terms of brand recognition, making Shields a household name almost instantly. But it also sparked immediate controversy among conservative groups in 1980. Despite the backlash, the ads ran, and Shields' career skyrocketed, largely because the media landscape allowed for such risky campaigns to dominate the conversation without immediate, organized boycotts. It was seen as edgy, high-fashion advertising, rather than a breach of ethical standards regarding children in media. But let's fast forward to 2026. The immediate sexualization of a minor in a global ad campaign will provoke a massive, instantaneous social media backlash. Twitter and TikTok will be ablaze with hashtags calling for a boycott of the brand within hours. In today's climate, Calvin Klein would likely be forced to pull the ads immediately, issue a massive public apology, and face intense scrutiny from child advocacy groups and legal experts. The narrative will shift from iconic ad to ethical catastrophe before the next commercial break. Throughout the 1980s, Sean Penn wasn't just known for his intense acting, he was arguably more famous for his violent run-ins with the press. He developed a notorious reputation for physically assaulting photographers who dared to take his picture, famously dangling one from a balcony in Macau and punching another so hard he was eventually sentenced to jail time. At the time, this was often framed by tabloid media as volatile artist behavior, a sign of his dangerous dedication to his craft, or simply profitable gossip for a slow news week. He was seen as a dangerous rebel rather than a legitimate criminal threat. But today, with people on the street filming every interaction on smartphones, these assaults would go viral in minutes. Penn would face immediate felony charges for battery, and the public backlash would make his brand permanently untrustworthy, making him undesirable for major studio projects. Now here's someone that's had a mention in one of our recent videos. In the summer of 1988, just before the Democratic National Convention, the Brat Pack heartthrob Rob Lowe was involved in a scandal that shook Hollywood. During a night out in Atlanta, Lowe was filmed in a hotel room having a bedroom encounter with 2 women. It was later revealed that one of the women was underage. The tape was quickly leaked and the story exploded into a massive tabloid circus, capturing headlines across the nation for weeks. At the time, the legal investigation was slow and the primary fallout was public embarrassment rather than immediate criminal justice. Lowe took a temporary break from the spotlight, but within a couple of years, he was back working, eventually making a successful comeback and even famously joking about the incident during his Saturday Night Live monologue. Today, however, the legal ramifications regarding age and consent would be a vicious storm, not a quiet exile. This would be a federal criminal case with instant international consequences, making a career comeback virtually impossible. In August of 1987, Ferris Bueller's Day Off star Matthew Broderick was vacationing in Northern Ireland with his girlfriend, actress Jennifer Grey. While driving a rented BMW on a narrow road in County Fermanagh, Broderick crossed into the wrong lane and collided head-on with a Volvo driven by local woman Anna Gallagher. Both Gallagher and her passenger, Margaret Doherty, were unalived instantly. Broderick suffered a fractured leg, ribs, and a concussion, while Gray sustained minor injuries. According to reports, Broderick told police he had no recollection of the crash and did not know why he was on the wrong side of the road. Despite the catastrophic outcome, the legal proceedings were surprisingly lenient. Broderick was initially charged with causing unaliving by dangerous driving, which carried a potential 5-year prison sentence. However, this was later reduced to the lesser charge of careless driving, and he was fined just 100 pounds, roughly $175 and allowed to return to the States. In 2026, the massive public outrage over this lenient sentence, perceived as elite celebrity privilege, would be immediate and global. Today, he would likely face serious manslaughter charges, amplified by relentless social media demand for justice. "I don't know why I was on the wrong side of the road" wouldn't be tolerated. By 1989, Kim Basinger was an A-list actress, but she made a risky business move that nearly destroyed her career. After verbally agreeing to star in the psychological thriller Boxing Helena, a movie famously known for its bizarre plot about a doctor who amputates a woman's limbs to keep her captive, Basinger decided to back out before signing the final contract. The producers of the film were furious, claiming they had already sold the foreign rights based on her involvement. They sued Basinger for breach of contract, arguing that a verbal agreement was legally binding. The case went to court in 1993, and a jury shockingly awarded the producers $8.1 million in damages. The verdict effectively bankrupted Basinger, forcing her to file for personal bankruptcy and sell property she owned in Georgia to pay the debt, though the verdict was later overturned on appeal. The industry operates on digital paperwork today though. Talent agents and legal teams ensure absolutely nothing moves forward without an airtight paper trail, making walking away from a verbal commitment impossible without severe, immediate legal consequences. This is perhaps the darkest scandal on our list. In July of 1982, on the set of Twilight Zone the movie, director John Landis was filming a scene requiring a helicopter to fly low over a village set while pyrotechnics exploded all around it. Landis ignored explicit warnings from safety experts and violated California child labor laws by having 2 young children, Micah Din Lee and Renee Shin Yi Chen, on set in the middle of the night for the dangerous stunt. During the scene, an explosion caused the helicopter to lose control and crash directly on 3 actors, killing Vic Morrow and both children instantly. The horrific accident sparked years of legal battles. Shockingly, despite the clear negligence, Landis and 4 other crew members were acquitted of manslaughter in 1987, largely because the industry protected its own. Today, however, footage of such an incident would no doubt go viral and make it impossible to cover up or spin the story. Considering the fact that people on set may go ahead and begin recording the stunt, simply to have their own video evidence of Landis going against crucial safety concerns, not to mention the child labor laws. The director would face immediate permanent industry blacklisting and serious criminal charges, bypassing the slow legal system of the 80s. In 1988, Eddie Murphy was the undisputed king of Hollywood. His film Coming to America was a global smash hit, raking in nearly $300 million at the box office and cementing his status as a superstar. But while the world was laughing, a massive legal battle was brewing that would expose the dark underbelly of movie studio finances. Famous columnist Art Butchwald sued Paramount Pictures, claiming the studio had stolen his 1982 script treatment titled King for a Day to create Murphy's film. The scandal reached a fever pitch when the court case pulled back the curtain on the industry's most infamous secret, Hollywood accounting. Despite the movie's massive success and the millions it generated in ticket and VHS sales, Paramount's lawyers presented a balance sheet claiming the film had technically made zero net profit. By using complex tax shelters, high distribution fees, and interest charges, they argued that on paper, the movie was a loser, and therefore they didn't owe Butchwald a single cent of the back-end royalties promised in his contract. The judge eventually ruled in Butchwald's favor, calling the studio's contract unconscionable, but the trial left a permanent stain on the industry's reputation. This kind of blatant financial gaslighting would be dead on arrival today. Between modern digital audits, real-time revenue tracking, and the threat of a high-profile transparency lawsuit being live-blogged by financial In the late 80s, Milli Vanilli was the biggest pop sensation on the planet. Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan had the looks, the moves, and the hits, culminating in a Best New Artist win at the 1990 Grammys. But the dream began to crumble during an MTV live performance in Bristol, Connecticut, when their backing track skipped, repeating the phrase, "Girl, you know it's," over and over. The secret was out. The duo hadn't sung a single note on their multi-platinum album. The fallout was unprecedented. Their producer, Frank Farian, eventually confessed that he had hired studio singers because he didn't think Rob and Fab had the voices to match their marketability. For the first and only time in history, the Recording Academy stripped the winner of their Grammy. The duo became a global laughingstock overnight, their careers destroyed by the revelation that they were merely the faces of a massive corporate lie. It's important to note that lip-syncing itself isn't a crime in the music industry today. Superstars from the Super Bowl to world tours use backing tracks or full lip syncs to manage high-energy choreography. The difference is transparency. In the 80s, it was a total fraud where the artist didn't even record the studio version. In 2026, while some degree of vocal support is expected, the truth is crowdsourced instantly, with fans recording isolated vocal tracks on high-definition iPhones and sharing them on TikTok within minutes. A total hoax like Milli Vanilli would be debunked before their first single even hit the charts. In 1983, history was made when Vanessa Williams became the very first black woman crowned Miss America. Her reign was supposed to be a triumph, but it turned into a nightmare when Penn magazine announced they had acquired and intended to publish unauthorized nude photos of Williams, taking years before she entered the pageant. The scandal became a media frenzy, putting immense pressure on both Williams and the Miss America organization. Under intense public scrutiny and facing threats of sponsors dropping out, Williams was forced to relinquish her crown in July of 1984, just months before her reign was set to end. It was a massive blow to her burgeoning career, and the narrative at the time focused on her unfitness for the role rather than the violation of her privacy by the photographer who sold the photos without her consent. In 2026, however, the narrative would be entirely different. The legal system would pursue the magazine and the photographer under strict modern cyberflash laws and non-consensual pornography regulations. Furthermore, the public backlash on social media would overwhelmingly support Williams as a victim of a privacy violation, making the decision to strip her of the crown look archaic and unethical. Looking back, it's clear that Hollywood in the 80s was a different universe, where accountability was often optional and privacy was almost non-existent. Well, I guess by that metric, things haven't changed that much. Which of these 9 scandals do you think stood out? Let us know down in the comments. Till the next one.